for which is I'll Be Home for Christmas, among other songs. We'll now have an open hymn, or sorry, opening hymn, Love at Home, which is number 294. It will be accompanied by Melissa Deanne White. Melissa Michelle White will be the chorister. Following which, we will have an opening prayer by Adelaide Michelle White and a eulogy by Tanya Michelle Payne. And we will proceed forth in the program up to that point.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many and transformative things you have done in our life. This is how we build our spirit of community. We are so grateful for the salvation that we need to be able to be inclusive of the kingdom. I'm so grateful that we listening to hear from you. Teach us those prepared to be able to give talks today. May we have strength and courage to speak from our hearts. These things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Put my little baby glasses on.
By the way, Dad would tease me when I would wear these. So this is for him. Ken White was born on October 1st, 1944 in Salt Lake City, Utah to Anna Marie Sparks, Mohanry and Kenneth White, the youngest of 6 children. Mohanry, Ernest White, Gloria Marie Halliday, Joyce Dot Jackson, Leroy White, and Gary Hahn White, his only surviving sibling. Ken was more affectionately known as Kenny to his family and friends. Ken graduated from Olympus High School in 1961, where he met Beth Michelle Eason in debate class. So Mom always told me that she was the one that won that debate, but that was not technically an eulogy. They can debate that up in heaven now. She attended BYU and he attended the University of Utah. They were soon married in the Salt Lake Temple on August 19, 1964. They had 5 children: David Kenneth, Tony Michelle, Eric Edward, Craig Franklin, and Ryan Hiram Mohanry. They lived in Holiday for most of their married life until they moved to Cedar Valley, Eagle Mountain in 1980. In high school, Ken owned a 1962 Corvette, giving him the nickname the Corvette Kid. He proudly shared his racing stories with us over the years. After 19 years of marriage, Michelle and their son Craig died in a car accident on December 17th, 1983, while they were living in South Jordan. This was a sad day that altered their family forever. Upon his passing, I'm sure it must have been one special moment. The other side, as it has been 38 years since he had seen them. Ken Penn was remarried in 1984 for another 14 years. At the age of 19, Ken was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Due to his condition, he had nearly 20 feet of his small intestine removed when he was in his early 20s, which left him only 3 feet. This caused him to look inward on his own health and to judge what he could do and couldn't do on a daily basis his entire life. Ken read water meters he was a police officer, sold sand and gravel, ran excavation crews, was the president of White Investment, and for at times was president of the Rocky Mountain Morgan Horse Show Association. Early in life, he joined his brother Gary, who created White Concrete Products. Gary was president and Ken was vice president. Together, they were the first ones to remove sand and gravel from a pit at the well-known area called the Point of the Mountain. His pit sat roughly where Geneva and West Rock is now. Upon his death, Ken was president of White Investment, which title he cherished, one his father appointed many years prior. In the late 60s and early 70s, Ken helped supply the concrete for many homes in his father's housing development in Sandy City area, known today as White City. After White Concrete Products, Ken later started a gravel pit in Kearns on 5400 South and 3200 West, east of Bangerter Highway. You can still visualize the entrance of the weak skirting around the airport runways at Salt Lake Airport. One of Ken's first jobs was reading water meters for his father's company named County Water Systems. This served as Mount Olympus Park and the East Mill Creek neighborhoods. He later used these experiences to operate White Hills Water Company in Cedar Valley, where we lived. He was fascinated how he could turn on a well using online means and to monitor the water pressure from his computer to provide consistent service for residents. His son David was also very involved in which he heavily entertained himself with. He enjoyed law enforcement so much that he volunteered as a Salt Lake City Police Reservist, where he received many marksmanship awards. Following the advice of his father, Ken cashed in, sold his gravel business, and decided to move to Cedar Valley to build his dream equestrian center, simply known as the Blue Barn. As he also helped his father run his hay ranch known as White Ranch. The Blue Barn had a home built in the top. Then down below was an indoor horse arena. He hosted 2 horse show presentations at the Blue Barn for the public in 1986 and 87 to promote the local Morgan breeders in Utah. Ken enjoyed and showing many world-class horses, which breeding stock originated from California to New England. His first horse, Nighthawk, and some of his others were as follows: Easter Star, Baylisa, Kitty Hawk, Alana, Fantasia, China Doll, Shady Lady, Sunny Dawn, Catherine Ann, Alex, Lexington, Big Magic, also known as Fonzie. He was the horse that was right beneath my bedroom and would always beg on his feeder. Of course, I had to pick that room. Skyhawk, Roman Holiday, Lee's Song, and Rio Touch and Class or Classy. His favorite horse was Janet from the Topsfield Stables in Topsfield, Massachusetts, who took second and first place in the 1979 and 1980 World Championship Park Saddle. Later in his life, Kenny made a dear friend who also happened to be named Janet like his favorite horse. This sparked a friendship that lasts to this day, whom he has relied upon for many things in his challenging life. She has been so very helpful in meeting his medical needs over the years. He spent the remainder of his years living in St. George, away from the snow, water companies, gravel pits, and northern Utah challenges. He died early Monday morning, December 27th, 2021, of natural causes in his home, comfortably surrounded by his children. Days earlier, he was visited by his sister Joyce, who stood at the doorway to his room. He asked her to come in and have a seat and replied, "I'm not ready to go." He is survived by his children, with the exception of his third son, Craig. We were playing soft spiritual music as he was transitioning. He always said his favorite song as a child was "Love at Home." As we stood by his side and as he took his last breath, randomly the song started to play as he left us. Please stand as I read your name. And stay standing. Stand tall, stand proud of who you are and where you came from, as this is Dad's, Grandpa's greatest legacy. David Kenneth and Rochelle White. Abe Monty and Heidi White. Abilene Sierra Lynn White. Leah Anna White. Marcus Moppy White. Malcolm Sifa White. Mitus Kidione White. Alexandria Miller White. David White. Monsolia White. Shayla White. Mary White. NJ White. Julian White. Joshua Afu and Latoya White. Hanina Ray Malcolm White. Michelle Naya White. Miliame Sabalo Jasmine and Ariel White. Harmony Deanne and Felipe Fajeda. Owen Frederick White. Stella Michelle White. Tanya Michelle and Sean Payne. Sean, Trevor, and Kayla Payne. Aiden, Sean Payne. Jackson, Trevor Payne. Lucas, Gary Payne. Lauren, Michelle, and Eddie De Leon. Jet Payne Marino. Meta, Michelle Marino. Dylan Thomas and Shayla Payne. Luna Helen Payne. Wyatt Wolf Thomas Payne. Ethan Kenneth Payne. Eric Edward and Melissa White. Alyssa Michelle and Chase Noel. Nicholas Clark Noel. Nora Ruth Noel. Mason Kenneth and Amanda White. Dallin Ellery White. Cambria Monet White. Ryan Hiram Mohanry and Angie White. Adeline Michelle White. Amaya Natalia White. Elena Karen White. Axton Ryan Craig White. It's not what he did for work or horses he owned. It's all about his family standing right now that he left behind. His greatest legacy will forever live on through you. His 5 children, 19 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren. Let's always remember to have love in our hearts and love at home. And don't forget to do the razzle dazzle every once in a while.
Thank you for that, Tanya. We'll now have the opportunity to have a musical number by Ryan and Angie's kids, as well as Abe and Heidi's kids. They will be singing "I Am a Child of God." Following the musical number, we will have 3 speakers. Our first speaker is my dad, Eric Edward White. Following him, we will hear some remarks from Ryan Hiram Mohanry White. And we'll have closing remarks from David Kenneth White. We'll proceed forth to that point in the program.
Well, I know he's here, and I know that he sees who's here to celebrate his life and to express their condolences to the family. I also believe my mother's here, me and the brother's here, and we're often told by the prophets that you get to attend your own funeral. So I take them at their word that that's likely happening. So many of you may be wondering, what is the razzle dazzle? Okay. He knew he would go into the hospital back and forth so often that he hated rehab. He hated it. And then he'd try to fight his way to get back home. But somehow he got it in his head, if I could show them that I'm healthy, that's his ticket. And he played it every time. Now, I never witnessed the razzle dazzle, but I have heard others talk of it. I did witness it as Tony recorded one time on video, and he was pretty broken up, and he still made all these efforts. But what the razzle dazzle is if he would yell down the hall, so I'm not even sure exactly what the words he said, but he'd say razzle dazzle. He would start doing this kick and march, kick and march, kick and march, walking down, waking up everybody. They poke their heads out. What is going on? This man wants to go home. And sure enough, the doctor would see that, send him home. Send him home. And the other trick he liked to do was that he knew if I could drop a penny and pick it up off the ground, I'm good, right? So he too would demonstrate, drop it, pick it up. He's good to go. So that's the razzle dazzle. He, as a child, some of the memories I have, I'll try not to take too much time because we have several people to speak. But as a child, one of the funniest stories is he lived in his crib was in the same room as his parents, and they didn't necessarily live in a really big home, although so his crib was at the end of the bed, and he started to outgrow the crib, and he had mentioned that his legs continued to grow, and he outgrew the crib to where his legs went through the bars. And so he knew, and his feet would get cold, so his mother would just put a blanket on his feet through the bar. But he knew it's like I'm either sleeping on my belly this morning or on my back. But I had to make a decision. I couldn't turn to you say once I was in there. Yeah, true story. His challenges in life were difficult. I mean, we talked about his Crohn's disease. He was really challenged. And I don't think any of us have a clue how challenged he was. It's easy to visit him, to show up and say, wow, what a rough deal. You know, spend an hour to visit with him. Then we go and leave him and live our lives. But he had to live with his health challenges in a colostomy bag. I want to say it's almost 27 years. Most people over 5. But he had to do with that every day. One thing that I appreciated very much, somehow, I don't know how it got started, but the last 10 years, whenever we spoke to him on the phone, it was always I love you, Dad, and he would say, I love you, son. Could not get off the phone without saying I love you. And that was unusual. I mean, that never happened. I don't know how it started. But pretty soon we were all saying it. Pretty soon it was awkward not to say it. But it meant a lot to hear it from him and for him to hear it from us. And that is something I will not forget. I remember growing up, many of you that knew him, he would talk for hours about subjects, mainly family history, or his horse shows, or he did this, and some of it must have rubbed off on me, because I'm not just asking the kids. But he would, and if he would not let you up until he was done. You start to get up to leave. Sit down, I'm not done talking to you. Did what he said. Joyce came to visit him, and that's when I knew we're close. His sister Joyce passed. And Caitlin is here, and she witnessed it. But Caitlin told me he was sitting in his chair just a few nights before he passed. And he immediately stood up and turned and said, Joyce, come have a seat. And then he said, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready. I'm sure she was inviting. And then sometime after that, Caleb said, that he said, you know, I think I'm ready for a better place. And I think that's probably one of the greatest joys is he can now walk around in spirit form. I have full testimony of the resurrection of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that we're taught, will be resurrected in a physical form. Heaven is not just spiritual, it's a physical place. And that this earth will be redeemed and will become that kingdom. And all these graves will all be opened at some point. And we will live and associate as we do now, but not as mortals, but as immortal beings. And I believe that. I know he believed it. Though maybe his life didn't always reflect it, or didn't express it. There were times when I would be in conversation. You know. His final breath, I watched him take his final breath with Tanya. It was a very reverent experience for me. It was not strange, it was not scary, it was not. Because Tanya and I have spent at least an hour talking back and forth about our kids. And I think it helped him feel at home, as if he was in the corner, listening to his kids, just overhearing conversation. As he transitioned, and he took his last breath. And I marked the time, 2:17. After a few minutes, actually, some of the seconds just passed. It was a reverent experience. So, Dad, I know you're here. I love you. And I know you're around, and I will be able to go right after this, as our mother has. And I say these things in this.
Allergies, you hear too bad. No, thank you, Tanya, that was watching you speak, giving his greatest legacy, that was amazing. Thank you, Eric. Those words for So according to Dr. Kugler and Ross, the 5 stages of grief include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Even as a licensed mental health therapist, nothing can prepare me for this type of for these type of feelings. As it kind of dredges up some old feelings in long past. Fortunately, as my father always said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I believe that. And he continued, and he says, and even under extreme pressure, you can become a hidden gem. So focusing on two key words spoken by my father, that being pressure and that being hidden gem. In 1995, I think, roughly around there, as a 15-year-old boy, my father became sick beyond measure. And that was the first time that I realized, as a boy, that he was going to have a very, very hard life. I remember the doctors wheeling him back into surgery after telling us that he wouldn't make it. I remember the doctor telling us the plan for the funeral that he wouldn't make it. However, with the thumbs up, and that was kind of his thing. Before going into surgery, with every ounce of energy that he had, he would always give us that thumbs up. And he made it through the surgery. Again, it was then that I first realized the amount of physical pressure my father would have to endure until the end. As such, my father was released from the hospital, set to recover in early life. During this time, Celia, his then wife, was working at Smith's for insurance reasons, as my father lay in the master bedroom, cringing in agony, due to the fact that the doctors put a colostomy bag on my father. His body wasn't accustomed to the lack of fluids that his body needed, which caused my father to scream in agony due to muscle cramps. And I remember he would scream at the top of his lungs when these cramps hit his legs, cramps hit his thighs, cramps hit his back. And I remember thinking to myself as I looked into his eyes, is this it for my father? Will he spend the rest of his life screaming in pain? Fortunately, a few weeks after, my father started to feel better and started to acclimate to his to having a bag on his stomach. And shortly thereafter, as I did most nights, I would find my father in his office chair, working late into the night. However, he always made time for me, and sitting in that guest chair sometimes felt like eternity, because, as Eric said, that man loved to talk. I remember listening. I don't remember the stories half the time. I'm sorry, but I remember listening to stories, and he would kind of doze off, and then that was my cue to really slowly get up from the chair and try to dart for the door, right? And without fail, he'd wake up, and oddly enough, he would start talking, exactly from where he left off before he fell asleep. And a lot of stories. Our talks vary from night to night. And I remember getting on the subject of his Crohn's disease. And I remember I asked him if he will, have a bag in his stomach forever. And I asked if it hurt. And my father responded, I don't know, son. This is my lot in life. This is the hand that I was dealt. I responded, will it get any better? And my father stated, God gave me this for a reason. So I just have to trust that he will give me the courage and strength to carry on. In addition, my father often related his situation to ocean snails, which I will get to in a minute. But please know, when he talked to me about ocean snails, I did not find it at all interesting. as a 15-year-old boy doomed to listen into the wee hours of the night. But it was that very story, that very topic of ocean snails that saved my life. As I talk to you now. But first, I'm often reminded of the trials and tribulations that our family has endured. In fact, the immense pressure the four of us felt was at times overwhelming. It was heavy, sometimes dark and hopeless. Under normal circumstances, some would cave and submit to such pressure. However, it's evident that God has given us everything we need to survive. Much like He did our Father. Remembering the words pressure and hidden gems brings up my point in regard to ocean snails. These creatures live at the bottom of the ocean, where pressure is 1,000 times that of the surface. These snails, the size of our hands, have a chemical makeup allowing their constitution inside their bodies to withstand the force of nature. God has given these snails everything they need to not only survive, but thrive under our ocean floor. I've seen it firsthand. My father lived with this illness, and he never let it get the best of him. His sheer will to live was second to none. That the forces of nature, although bleak and heavy at times, we are given the composition necessary for survival, even eventually from death itself. Yes, it may hurt. Yes, it may seem heavy, but we'll meet again. And we have to have faith in Christ in these latter days. In fact, it was promised that families can be together. President Iron declares, and I quote, "The priesthood power to bind families eternally is one of the greatest gifts of God. Every person who understands the plan of salvation longs for that lasting blessing. Only in the sealing ceremonies performed in dedicated temples of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does God offer the promise that families can be bound together. Right. Further, Elder Kendrick of the 70 proclaims, life is not always easy to live, but the opportunity to do so is a blessing beyond comprehension. In the process of living, we face struggles, many of which will cause us to suffer and experience pain. Many people will suffer in personal struggles, while others will suffer as they watch their loved ones. To gain strength in our struggles, we must have the positive perspective of the principles of the plan of salvation that Eric had just talked about. Like my father and his ocean snails, we must also learn to live the principles that the Lord has given to receive the strength needed during our struggles. It's time to unpack all of God's given you and commit to cultivating the strength and character you'll need to face the pressures of the world. Realizing that you have everything you need. Everything you need right here. Even more, you'll find He is everything you need. And as sons and daughters, we are never meant to succumb to pressures of the world. We are only meant to undergo the diamondization process. Or as my father would say it, is hidden gems. And like many diamonds created by immense pressure, we are unique, cut many different ways, different carats, colors, and beauties, but all diamonds nonetheless. So Dad, I remember endless times sitting in your chair in your office, listening to these diamond stories, ocean snails, as you wrapped your diamond-filled horseshoe ring on armrest I remember it.
Hope I can get through this. Sitting here and listening to all the stories and events and things already presented, really start studying the heartstrings. But I first want to thank everyone for being here and the love and support that is being shown. That means a lot. I'm grateful for the family and friends that were present and support from them during the final days, the time of my dad's passing, or father's passing, I should say. I'm grateful for Tanya, Eric, and Ryan for really preparing for this day and that's not an easy thing to do. Considering the circumstances, appreciate the comments that have provided. I think they did a really good job with encapsulating everything that some of the high points of my dad's and my father's life. And did a really good job with that. In thinking about some of the things I wanted to say and reflecting back, I keep going back to the 1990s and early 2000s. I'll be brief. Like my father, I wasn't blessed with the gift of gab. I prefer to just listen and kind of just sit quietly and absorb. But it's very true what Ryan and Eric had expressed in terms of sitting in the chair and accomplishing till wee hours in the morning, and you couldn't break away. It's not an exaggeration by any means. It was a true fact. And it was also a true fact that you sought out opportunities when you did exhibit some forms of seemed to be narcolepsy. You would fall asleep and wake up and you finish the sentence like I stated as if you didn't need the middle stop. The temptation to leave was there, but you knew you were going to be in trouble if you woke up and you weren't there. So that certainly was one of his characteristics. I spent a lot of time with Dad in the 1990s. We had a common interest out in Cedar Valley. We spent a lot of time in the shop. Doing a lot of things. And anybody that's grown up on a farm realizes that there's never a shortage of tasks to complete. We were always fixing something, painting something, working on something, welding on something. And we spent a lot of time in that shop and had a lot of time to talk and just about the assortment of different things. That was probably a period in my life that I got to know him more so than any other time. For those grandkids that are here today, I can tell you that Grandpa Kenny, without question, had a very creative and eccentric side to it. Most people who knew him certainly knew that to be the case. And if you bear with me, I'd like to share this quick story. And in the 90s, there was a point to this at the very end. There was what we refer to as the Summer of Fires. And I know a few of you have heard some of the stories of the fire trucks that my dad took upon himself to build and use. And I remember one summer, it all started, it was a fire, and it was a fire that broke out behind Cedar Fort. It was up in the cedar trees, and it was burning down towards the town, and we had just built the first fire truck. That I don't know where he got the idea. I think it was a fire that had broke out of the can. It was disturbed about the fact that it took the county so much time to get out there. So we built this first fire truck. I was thinking, during the process of it, just what in the world are we doing? This is not a chance that there's ever going to be a fire that we're going to ever be called to, and maybe there will be a field fire that would come rolling in towards the house. And I guess they had some sort of purpose that way. And I just didn't believe that anything was going to happen. So this, no sooner than we get the truck done, this fire breaks out behind Cedar Fort. And it was our time to go. And he yelled, and we just happened to be there in the shop, and we could see the smoke coming. And we jumped in the truck and we were barreling down the highway. I was in the back of the truck trying to get the pump started and everything prepped. And the two of us, with the little training that we had, I think it was just pretty much we knew that fire didn't like water, and we were getting close to racing. So we raced up into Cedar Fort. We got up at the very end of town, and there was residents running up in the hills with buckets of water. Cedar Fort's fire truck looked like it was broke down or something. And he puts it in four-wheel drive, and I could hardly stand. He's barreling up the mountain, and there's one of the residents had a bulldozer that was bulldozing down trees trying to create a fire line. And we started spraying, and I started spraying water on trees, and we were fighting the fire and driving over burning sagebrush. And I don't know how we can blow ourselves up, but we got that fire under control, and as quickly as we showed up, we left out of there, and it was about the closest you could get to being a superhero, I guess, to some degree. And we got back, and I remember pulling up to the shop, and my dad's adrenaline was pumping so hard that, I could see the wheels turning, and for me, it was just all a blur of what happened. And we were kind of in a debrief, and we need a bigger truck. So, okay, where are we going to get a bigger truck? And he's like, well, Junior Forbes has got a truck, and this truck was a kind of an icon of the truck itself. It was one of his good horse training friends that pulled trailers to the horse shows, and this truck looked like a bull with wheels on it. They had horseshoes on mud flaps and a cowbell hanging from the front bumper. And I'm thinking, there is not a chance we're going to get this truck out from underneath Junior at all. We show up on his front porch, and Dad is beating on the door, and Junior comes to the door. He's half dressed. Dad's letting into him about there was a fire, we had a truck, it's not big enough to need yours, and anyone that knew Junior, and Bert certainly would confirm this, his sentences were comprised of as many curse words as there was regular words. Literally let us have it with old barrels on the front porch. To which my dad responded, yeah, we still need to buy a truck. So with some additional colorful language, he invited us into his living room. He sat down, my dad sat down and had this checkbook, and it was no little checkbook. And you remember, it was the big checkbook about this big, and he left it open and started writing a check. Junior was trying to give us something, and I don't know what he offered. I don't recall we were driving out of that truck. Headed back to see. We got out to the shop, pulled it in the shop, and exhausted and covered with soot. I thought I was headed home. I wasn't headed home. The truck was white. It was not the White Quest Morgan Farm blue that it needed to be. So he told me to fire up the steam cleaner, let's clean it, because we gotta paint this truck. We need to do it now, because I'm getting metal ordered tomorrow morning, and we're gonna start putting this thing together. And I remember we got the truck painted that night to the point where the decals were ready to be placed onto it. Finally was able to go to it. Got home, got up early, went to work, and I got a phone call the next day. Sitting at work, and he's like, "When are you getting out of here? We gotta get this truck finished." And suddenly we had all this pressure on us to get this truck done. It was all self-promoted anyway, so I don't know. I can understand where we didn't get to ourselves. We did get that truck, and there was numerous fires, and I don't know. Maybe we had a spring that was extra wet, and we had a lot of people grass on the ground, but they were just breaking out at least once a week, and I was just amazed at how we just happened to be in the right place. My dad would scan the radios of Utah County, and took great pride in knowing when they showed up, all the white trucks are already out here, they've got the fire under control, and they've already put it out. And they were kind of literally upset to the point that they were showing up, and we had already put the fire out. I think my dad was reliving his law enforcement days, and I was along for the ride. And we got to the point where the county started leaving a truck out there and roving, and because we kept beating to the punch, we just always referred to it as blowing out the candles on your birthday cake, and they were upset about it. I think he enjoyed that part of it too. Long story short, it ultimately ended, it forced the county to contract with Cedar Ford, and we built up their fire department, and with actually trained individuals. They didn't have us to worry about. We actually did receive a cease and desist order to not to fight any more fires, but I challenged him on that. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what are they going to do? I remember this words. It's like, what are they going to do? Arrest you for putting out a fire? Oh, we may get there, may interfere, and may tie it in there or something. But I tell that to make this point. This is for the benefit of the grandkids who maybe didn't really get to know him as much, but he was an all-in kind of guy. And whatever interest he pursued, he did it 100%. He wasn't in a pathway. Yeah. Was a deep thinker. He thought outside the box, figured out new ways to do things. And for those of you grandkids, if you ever see those quality surface inside yourself, just know that you come by it honestly. It's true what they say that the apple doesn't fall from the tree. So in terms of knowing, you don't have to look any further than just within, because it's there. Any closing? Just like to say, Dad, I love you. We'll see you soon. Let's say these things in Jesus Christ's name.
Those are some beautiful remarks. Thank you for that. I think you're definitely right. The apple does not fall far from the tree. I have been up in the wee hours of the night many times with my own dad. So. So I'm not listening, so for sure. Now we'll have a closing hymn, number 152. God be with you till we meet again. We'll be accompanied by Melissa Deanne White. Again, of course, will be Alyssa Michelle White. And we'll have our benediction by Abraham Mafi White, following which I will outline the details of moving to the gravesite.
Our Father in heaven, as we bow our heads before thee, because of this funeral service, we thank thee for the opportunity we had to gather here today, friends and family, to celebrate a wonderful life in Christ. I have to thank thee for the plan of salvation that's been brought up multiple times today. We will see it again. Yes, bless us at this time as we depart from here today, that we may always keep it in our mind and in our hearts. So we see in the name of Jesus Christ.
Okay. I'd like to invite all to arise, please, at this time. And we'll invite pallbearers to please come forward. Brian, Abe, Ethan, Josh, Dallin, Owen, Dylan, myself, led by Axton. We'll move to the gravesite, and the dedication will be given by Ryan, Hiram, on their wife.
Outside.